everybody, and welcome to my channel After Dark Coffee and Crime. If you are a regular here, it's good to have you back here with me again, and if you are new, hi and a very warm welcome. My channel is growing every week, and I do say we are a friendly bunch because we do like to chit chat in the chat. So if you are here for the premiere, that will be awesome. If this is something that sometimes people find difficult, it's just a warning that where there are timestamps, they will apply more for the replay, because obviously when it's premiering it can't be forwarded and you can't skip until after. So if you are feeling something isn't for you on that particular day, then please do switch out and you can watch the replay and then obviously skip out or completely watch something different, or you can just avert your eyes and just keep busy for a couple of minutes and then come back in. So today's case, I'm going to be going back to the case of Constance Marten, because I did one in the very beginning when she first went missing, and obviously there has been significant updates in this last week, and tragically we have a very poor outcome on this case. So just as with everything, I just want to say that I want to give a content warning, just because obviously it's going to be talking about obviously a deceased baby and mum. We don't know whether there's been any mental health issues, so those kind of topics may well come up as I'm going through everything. Some of the information may be distressing to some as I talk about what's happened, especially at the end with the outcome. So if this is something that you can't watch at the moment, then please do skip out and come back another time. Obviously your mental health is imperative and you must look after yourself. So with everything, I always research the internet, I read books, I read articles, I watch the news, I get articles, I follow discoveries, anything that I can get my hand on to give you the most accurate information that I can obviously compile into a video for you, and hopefully you will get something from this that you perhaps weren't aware of or you're just catching up with. So yeah, today we continue the journey with Constance Marten and Mark Gordon. Just a quick recap on who Constance Marten is and who Mark Gordon is. So Constance was, or is, should I say, 35 years of age, and she comes from a high status family. They call it the aristocrat family, and her father had connections to the royal family, and he was a page to Queen Elizabeth II, and the grandmother Mary Martin was the goddaughter of the late Queen Mother. Now Constance has had a good education and she's had a good upbringing, and she was a former drama student. She had two brothers, Maximilian and Tobias, and they lived in a £34 million house known as Crystal House, and it's said to be one of the most beautiful homes in England, and it's sat in 5,000 acres of the Dorset parklands. And it's said that Constance became a lot more isolated when she met her convicted rapist boyfriend, Mark Gordon. So Mark Gordon is 48, and his background is obviously very different to that of Constance Marten's background. At 13 years older than her, Mark was actually born in Birmingham in the UK, and when he was younger he was actually moved to Florida with his mum and his siblings, half siblings they were, and he was at the age of 15 in 1990 arrested and found guilty of kidnap and sexual battery. This meant then he was obviously given a hefty sentence of 20 years in prison, and then when he completed his time in prison he was then deported back to the UK, and that's obviously then how they found each other. They went on to form a relationship. Now, I've seen people say that there was 2 other children that Constance had that were removed from her, but in sort of searching and having a look, I've not been able to verify that. So potentially, this may be the case, that there's been 2 other children in or taken from her care, and the people have criticised her parents and kind of said, well, they weren't going to help her with this baby because they didn't help her with the other 2, but I can't verify that. So obviously, if anybody has any links to that they want to link in or email it to me, please do. But in this situation, obviously Constance was pregnant, and we know that she is thought to have given birth in the car that they had broken down in, and then it had caught fire. There was also evidence that she had given birth in the car, as we know. They had found the placenta, and this has actually been sent off for testing. And not long after the birth of the baby, obviously they then went on the run and did everything they could to avoid capture and, obviously keep this baby safe and well. The couple actually had sort of gone quite a way over the UK, and from around the 5th of January they left the abandoned car which was on the M61 near Bolton, and that was around 6:30 p.m. Then on the 6th, they are walking around to Ankle Lane, and the couple travel 30 miles by taxi to Liverpool. So as you can see, they're going quite a distance to, be on the move all of the time. Then they move to Harwich on the 7th of January. So they've kind of, gone across the country, and then they're spotted in nearby towns like Colchester, and then from there they are traced to Easton train station, I believe, and then from there they are seen by the entrance to the port, which I'm assuming is where they were hoping, or perhaps maybe trying to maybe get the boat or a boat from the port out of the UK. Now, I don't know if that was their intention, but it would seem to me that if they were heading to the port, that would be something that they maybe possibly have been looking to do to evade capture. And over the weeks, as many of us know, the police were keeping tabs on them. They had been seen on CCTV in different locations, and at one point they had been seen on camera purchasing a blue tent, which is what led the police to then fear that they were sleeping outside with the baby, as opposed to in the early part of their travels where they were thought to be sleeping in like Airbnbs in the warmth. Obviously, with a new baby, it would have been very concerning. And as I pointed out on my first video, the health of a newborn baby, was challenging in the first few days, in the first few months even, because babies can't keep their temperature, and it's down to the parents to give them a warm, loving, caring, clean environment. And obviously, if the baby was sleeping outside in a tent with them, despite however they were trying to keep this baby as warm as they could, it wouldn't surprise me if that didn't contribute to the baby's demise later on. And so, travelling around with this baby, they managed to get taxis, they managed to travel by train. They'd obviously, I believe, probably tried to escape by port, but obviously when you have a baby, you need to register the birth to enable yourself to get a passport for the baby, and that's something that they will not have been able to do, because if they registered the baby, then they would get arrested, obviously, because they would then be visible. And they managed to do they managed to stay low-key and not get caught for many weeks. Almost, well, we're talking from the 5th of January to the 5th of February, so almost 2 months this couple managed to evade, being caught by the authorities. And although it seemed sort of followed, I'm guessing it was more like a catch-up game. And one thing the police did say when they were obviously following up on all the leads and watching CCTV back and obviously trying to keep up with their route and find them, is that actually they were not sleeping at some points and they would take shelter in the rain. So again, that's very concerning when you have a newborn baby. And obviously, as we know, this went on for some time, and then they are then seen having disposed of the baby's buggy. So at this point, it's hard to know whether, you know, they've just disposed of the buggy, or if this is the point where the baby, as we know from the outcomes, whether this is the point where they no longer have the baby with them. And in all, I read that they did a 500-mile journey. That's a long way to go with a new baby, sleeping rough, sleeping in the cold, you know, trying to hide. And obviously they would cover their faces quite a bit. So I guess that also made it difficult for the police to be able to keep abreast of that and follow them. But we know that they find themselves located in Brighton. And during their time in Brighton, obviously, they have gone on to find somewhere where they can low-key. And at this point, it's not known, you know, where they're staying, whether they're using the tent or not. But on Tuesday, the 28th of February, we are first to learn that a person had spotted the couple in Brighton, where they had obviously it looked to have been there for a few weeks, and had reported them to the police, and the police were there within less than 6 minutes, and they were arrested and detained. And initially they had been arrested on suspicion of child neglect. And that was the morning when I woke up to see that they had been arrested, and the baby was missing. So at that point, you know, your heart sinks, because you just think, right, okay, what's happened to this baby? And at this point, my mind was going, there was only two ways that this could be. For me, it was either the baby had been deceased for quite some time, and in order to protect themselves and not have a body, they wouldn't obviously disclose where this baby was, or this baby is alive and it's in the location where they had left this baby, and they didn't expect to be caught. And obviously on detaining them, again, they were not telling law enforcement where this baby was. So then your heart sinks, because then you're concerned that there's this poor baby out in the cold with, you know, no parents, no warmth, no food, dirty clothes, dirty nappy, probably, you know, struggling and probably in a lot of pain. And that's where, you know, they were the only two options for me that it could have been. And it was disturbing to know that even if the baby had died of natural causes whilst in their care, possibly due to the situation and the environment the baby was in, that the parents would not disclose where this baby was. At this point,
the couple were observed by a member of the public who recognised them from the media appeals close to a convenience store just around the corner from where we are today, observing them, calling 999, following them to this location where we are now, at which point the police from Sussex arrested the couple for child neglect. We're currently in a position where the baby, upon obviously arrest, the baby wasn't present. We've moved straight into an open land search following that arrest, working on the information intelligence that we've discussed before around the couple likely to be staying either in open land, we're using the tent, or outbuildings. And as we know, the land and the way that they were walking opens up onto the South Downs and back towards obviously the locations that we previously obviously know they were, sort of towards the New Haven and Seaford area. I've always remained hopeful that the child is alive, and that the investigation that we've led is all about that safe recovery.
They had also refused to say what the gender of the baby was, and they, from what I can gather from the media, is that they didn't really give any information at all. And then this sparked a huge police operation to search for this baby, to try and bring this baby to safety, to bring this baby home, because obviously we know that Constance Marten's parents have been, in the background pleading for her to come home, and, offering to help her. Her mum had written an open letter to her to say that she would, help her keep this baby, with everything that they could, that she knew that she would want, that her daughter would want her to give this baby the absolute best. And after the initial arrest of child, being arrested for suspicion of child neglect, they were then later arrested for suspicion of manslaughter. And the one thing that the police said, because they gave press conferences as time was passing, that initially they would have hoped that the baby was still alive, and as the days were going on, the police then said that they had serious concerns that this baby may have come to some serious harm. And even at this point, there was no disclosure by the parents about where this baby was. So in my mind, at this point, I'm thinking that perhaps maybe this baby hasn't been alive for quite some time, and that they don't want the police to obviously find the body and, potentially then find out what the cause of death was to this baby. After the couple's arrest, her dad, Napier Martin, made or sort of gave a response to the situation. And he had said to the media that it is an immense relief to know that my beloved daughter Constance has been found, tempered by the very alarming news that her baby has yet to be found. So, and he did go on to say that he wanted to sort of get across to Constance that, that he loved her, the family loved her, and they would want to help and support her during the coming difficult months and years ahead. We know that the police would have wanted to have kept them in custody for as long as possible, so that will be why initially they were arrested for the suspicion of neglect, and then it was escalated to suspicion of manslaughter, which then enabled the police to obviously hold them in custody for a further 36 hours. And then, as we later learned, sadly, the baby had been found deceased.
Let's get that police update from Sussex Police Headquarters.
Detective Superintendent from the Metropolitan Police.
I'm James Collis, I'm the Chief Superintendent here in Sussex Police.
We intend to read out some short statements, and we won't be taking questions at the end. It is my very sad duty to update this afternoon. Police officers searching a wooded area close to where Constance and Mark Gordon were arrested discovered the remains of a baby. A post-mortem examination will be held in due course. A crime scene is in place and work at the location is expected to continue for some time. This is an outcome that myself and that many officers who have been part of this search had hoped would not happen. I recognise the impact this news will have on the many people who have been following the story closely, and can assure them that we will do everything we possibly can to establish what has happened. Constance Marten and Mark Gordon remain in custody after the application for the extension of their detention for a further 36 hours was sought and granted by Brighton Magistrates Court. It is imperative now that the media and members of the public refrain from speculation and comments online that could be prejudicial to the potential court proceedings. No further information about the discovery will be shared at this time. I ask again that anyone with information that could support the investigation should call the incident room on 0208 345 3854. I'd just like to thank the media, the public and our policing colleagues in Sussex for their continued support.
Thank you. I would first and foremost like to extend my heartfelt condolences on behalf of Sussex Police to the wider family of the baby at this time. I understand that the conclusion of this search will be heartbreaking for the local community and the wider public, who have been impacted by and so supportive of this search and the investigation from the outset. I would like to thank again the public, including the member of public whose information led to the arrests, the huge number of people who came forward with information, and those that have volunteered to assist with the searches. We continue to support the Metropolitan Police as they conduct their investigation, and also the wider community as we all come to terms with this tragedy. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you very much.
We were not given any more information on the baby's condition or how they found the baby, what their thoughts were. It was just to obviously inform the public that this baby had actually indeed been found deceased. And then the next day, I mean, I didn't think we would get any more information on that, but the next day we were informed that this baby had possibly been deceased for a number of weeks. And then what followed was absolutely horrific, and we went on to learn that this baby had not only been deceased for several weeks, that this baby had been wrapped in a plastic bag and was laying underneath a bunch of nappies in a shed on the allotment, which is in and around the search area that the police were looking for this baby, because it was within that area of where the couple were found in Brighton. The couple were then charged with manslaughter and they appeared in court, and we learnt that this baby, because initially they weren't saying anything about this baby's gender or anything, so we didn't have any of that even when we first learnt that they'd found the baby deceased. But we found out that this baby was actually a little girl and that they had named her Victoria, so it made it much more easier to talk about, because when you don't have a gender of the baby and or a name or anything like that, you know, a lot of the times people were kind of referring to the baby as it, because we just didn't know what it was. So now we can say baby Victoria was found deceased, and sadly just I cannot wrap my head around you know, why this baby was left the way it was. And I've tried to consider various, alternatives as to why Constance was with this man, as to why this baby was, kept with her and they were on the run, in terms of was he manipulating her? Was there abuse going on? However, I kind of very much felt that the way that this baby was found kind of summed up to me that, she couldn't even wrap the baby in a blanket. She wrapped this baby up in a plastic bag. So that, said to me that even if everything else was the way it was and there was manipulation and there was abuse, she had the opportunity to wrap this baby up in a blanket, at least, bare minimum, but she didn't. And there would have been ample opportunities to put this baby somewhere safe, and they didn't. So we don't know the cause of death. They did say in court that they didn't know the cause of death, but there were furthermore tests that would be done on this baby. So the couple are now to appear at the Old Bailey on the 31st of March, and hopefully we will hear more updates then. I'm just surmising here that obviously with the initial autopsy that was carried out, obviously pending further tests that are being done, that there was no cause at that time for this baby's death, which could indicate that obviously this baby wasn't physically harmed in any way. But hopefully if we might get some more answers with the further testing, but we don't know. It may be inconclusive, because it could have been SIDS or anything, and it wouldn't surprise me if it was sudden infant death, given the situation that this baby was obviously being brought up in, from being born out in the cold and living out in the cold. So what disturbed me a bit as well after I'd read this and was catching up and stuff was that when they appeared in court together, Constance Marten blew Mark Gordon a kiss in court. They were also seen sort of touching hands apparently, and sort of having like whispery conversations. Now that's obviously come from the reporters that were in the court. So for Constance Marten to blow Mark Gordon a kiss in court says to me that she wasn't that scared of him, and that she obviously does have deep rooted feelings for him, because why would she do that, especially if in the end her baby has passed away, in a situation where now she is, if she was being abused in domestic violence, or physically, emotionally, whatever, being in prison now away from him, she would be more free to talk and say about what's happened and get justice for her baby. And it doesn't seem like there is any remorse there whatsoever. So that disturbed me quite a bit. I mean, the whole thing has been quite disturbing, if I'm honest, to learn that this baby was just discarded, wrapped up, not even buried, not even put in a blanket. That'll stay with me for a very long time, because it kind of screams the opposite of, the reasons why she was on the run. We're only surmising she's on the run because she feared the baby would be removed. So why else would they be on the run? And yet, on the other hand, this baby's not given the best chances it can have. There's no thought to what the baby needs. It's just all what they wanted and what they needed. But then when you sort of see what's gone on and how it's gone on, and how in the end, when this baby has passed away, that they've just left this baby in a shed, and they didn't have the decency to tell the police where this baby was. And they obviously knew very much so that this baby's post-mortem could obviously give the answers, and potentially they may not have wanted that. So there was no saying on how, what condition this baby was in, but I'm guessing there's been this baby was in a reasonable enough condition to conduct the post-mortem. So that's all for now on this case with Constance Marten. I kind of just wanted to follow on from the first video that I did, because I've been following this, and you've probably seen shorts in my stories, and I hope that just kind of as we go into the 31st of March that we get some conclusion to this case. And I will obviously update you once that hearing has been held, but I will just do it in shorts on here so that you can then obviously watch that, because with the case has pretty much concluded. We just need to know now what the steps are going to be and what the outcomes are just going to be following that hearing. So as we go along, or if there's anything else that we learn about this couple as time goes on, which we may now do, I will obviously be sharing that on my TikTok page or in here as well. Well, not all, it will be, and I will share it in here. So that is all for now. It didn't end how we wanted it to end. It's tragic, and may this poor innocent baby rest in peace, and may this baby get the justice this baby deserves, and hopefully the family will give this baby the send off that it deserves, and that the couple get the sentences that they also deserve. And hopefully we will get to see that on TV, because now the sentences are being filmed and I think the public will be very interested in watching the sentencing and the judge's arguments and things like that. So that's all from me. Stay safe. If you see something, say something, definitely report it, and I will be back next week. Bye for now.